You are only 3 steps away from getting the LSIT, which is one of the coolest but simple looking calisthenic skills. But if you ever tried it, you realize that it's harder than it actually looks. But you can get it very easily. We just need the right progressions, the right guide, and actually there is one secret element that is very rarely talked about in other tutorials. So let's go over that for you to get the LSIT. There are 3 things that you need in order to get the LSIT. One of them is the core strength, which actually also relies on your hip flexors. The second thing is the shoulder strength, which is actually the easiest part of this, of being able to push and hold your body weight on the floor, which most people are able to do. There's just one detail that we're going to go over, and the flexibility, which is one of those things that people don't talk about, as because you're in a chair shape, if your muscles are completely flexed out to its max, it is really difficult to add more strength to it. So if you've ever tried it on the floor, you might be struggling with a lot of things. So let's go over the progressions on how to get all these things, to know if you actually have the prerequisites to do the LSIT, and what if you don't, what to work on. So this is a great example of a bunch of different creators. Let's go over what's good and what's bad and what's to improve on. The LSIT, one of them is the flexibility. If you are not able to touch your toes from standing up, you will not be able to do the LSIT. You might have the strength in your shoulders and you might have the strength in your core, but you don't have enough air. So you need to be able to touch your toes. If not, you can do stretches like this. Adding a little bit of weight in order to stretch yourself even more is fantastic. This is one of the only tutorials that I found that actually talks about the flexibility part and how to improve it as well. So there's that one there. The second thing you need is be able to push your body off the floor and making sure your shoulders are completely pressed down in order to get your hips off the floor. There are 2 ways of doing this. One, just going on a regular dip bar and just pushing yourself and seeing if you can hold it. I believe this one does it. You can use whatever objects you have available, but just being able to do like this and actually pushing down, leaving as much space between your ears and your shoulder as possible, that means you have the strength to actually push and hold it. Again, this and the combination of being in the flexible position. So all you have to do is just do a leg raise, lift your leg up, see how high you can do it. Honestly, that also goes into core strength. So do you have the core strength? If you're able to lift your legs up with a leg raise, then you can do that. Now, what if you're not strong enough to be able to do the leg raise? Well, if you go here in the master book, which is completely free if you're part of the community, link below, wink, wink, is I would actually do this on either a bar or a thing holding down on the dip bars, and you start with tucked leg raises, which will also be the progression if you do it on the floor, which we will get to. Then you also do negatives, where you go in the tucked and then you bring your legs straight and you go down, and then eventually you'll be able to do leg raises. Now, how do you actually get into the LSIT? Well, if you ever tried doing it completely on the floor, it seems extremely difficult. I would strongly suggest starting with a little bit of height. That means with either parallel bars, or you can even stack up the books. It's different on the wrists, so if you have sore wrists, I would suggest something like this. But actually getting into it is not just sitting on the floor and lifting your legs and hoping for the best. This has a great suggestion from Gymnastics method. So Gymnastics method does this where you start in the position, which allows you to get the weight distribution properly, then you get your legs straight. So you can bring your legs in, tuck, and then straight. A lot of people might just get it with this simple change if you have all the elements, right? So you look at here, tucked, and then straight. So this guy gets it. Yeah, this is a great person who's trying to get it for 10 seconds, which is awesome. What are some progressions to get it? Either you realize that you do have the strength for pushing here. Honestly, the progression is just holding it. There's not really much that you can work on that. If you don't have that, then just doing very simple push-ups, right? So where your feet are helping. So let's go over the progressions. Progression number 1 is a lot of people have you doing leg lifts on the floor. If you don't have the leg lifts on the floor, then the LSIT, then you got to really work on the core. So I would start with the leg lifts. Then if that is too easy, then I would start doing it either laying back on the floor. It depends on regression. Sometimes I find it a lot harder. It's just different muscle groups. Again, my hips aren't the strongest, but I can do an LSIT because, I rely more on core. If you do have the leg lifts on the floor, then that's when I would suggest doing the leg lifts, like we said, either hanging, right, or on a dip bar. Then when you actually want to do the LSIT, right, I would suggest with height. So what you do is adding a ball, like the dip bars, the parallel bars, and you start with tucked, right? You do the tucked LSIT, right? And you just hold it there. Then you can do one leg, and then you do both legs. A lot of people might get that when going into it, like we said here. When you're going into it, you actually want to go tucked first, lift up, then get your legs straight. That allows you to get the balance. If you're having difficulties with hand placement, or what actually do as another progression in order to understand the pushing part, if you already got it, is this amazing progression that we got from this creator, Mealy, where you actually sit on the floor and you just push and you try to get your hips off the floor like this. Like, that will understand what you're supposed to do with the shoulders and push down, how to actually put weight on your hands. Then we can do the progression that we just did, where you lift your hips, then you bring your feet into the tucked, and then you get your legs straight. Or theoretically, after you lift, you might be able to get your feet up, but then it is kind of weird that way. Last thing for hand placement, I just want to mention it because it helped this person. I have never done this, as well as when I coach, a lot of times we are using the bars, so I've not noticed this, but this helped them, so I do want to share it, and really huge shout out to this person with height, it actually makes it all easier. However, on the floor, they found that the claw position was a lot easier in order to do the L-sit because I'm having troubles. But I do the L-sit and I don't have the claw position. I'm really relying on the palm. This isn't doing a lot of work. For whatever reason, this helped this person, this might help you. So that is the L-sit. Quick summary and recap of everything that we've talked about here. You need to have the pushing strength, which you can do just on parallel bars, on dip bars, or just even on the floor, lifting up your hips. You need to have the flexibility, so making sure you're able to touch your toes. If you're unable to do that, then you just need to do the stretches of 30 seconds to a minute as many days as possible, because when it comes to flexibility, you need to have a lot of time in it, and you can use the weights to make it a lot easier to get the flexibility by using weight and gravity. Then you need to have the core strength in order to do it. If you are able to do a leg raise and able to hold it on hanging on a bar, then you have the strength to do it. At that point, if you can do it on a dip bar, you should be able to do that. If you don't, then the progressions are leg lifts on the floor, which seem pretty easy. You can play around with hand placement to find what's harder for you, or leaning. Usually, the further that you lean back, the easier it is. Then I would get to either the high dip bars or hanging in order to do tucked leg raises, and then you do tucked leg raises and you hold it, since the goal is the L-sit, and then you're able to do tucked with one leg, and then you're able to do with two legs. When getting into the L-sit, wherever you put your hand placement is really whatever feels comfortable. You can do the claw position. I don't, but it has helped some people. When you get into it, get into the tucked first, allows you to find the weight and be able to push up, then you put the legs straight. Now, if you want to film yourself doing the L-sit and you want to get guidance and help, go ahead and click the link below and join the community for free, and I'll be able to help you out to get the L-sit. If not, you can get it on your own. I know you can. Just offer the help because I love coaching, and if not, stay awesome.